Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Live with Sondra show. Today, we're exploring something that's completely reshaping how guests move, explore, and experience attractions: AI guest journeys. We're talking about the invisible guide behind the magic, the technology that predicts what guests want before they even ask. And joining me today are two brilliant innovators who are literally redefining how AI, maps, and automation connect the entire experience. Let's roll the intro. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Live with Sondra show. I'm your host, Sondra Shannon, and today's topic has me so excited because it's all about what happens when innovation and imagination meets. So, AI's role in creating seamless, unforgettable guest visits. But before we jump in, a big thank you to our sponsor, Gatemaster Technology, the all-in-one ticketing and run smarter, grow faster, and elevate guest satisfaction for over 30 years. And I also want to highlight something special that's happening. We're doing our annual GT Summit 2026 happening right here in Denver, Colorado, where I'm at, on March 11th and 12th. It's a 2-day event bringing together operators, innovators, thought leaders from across the attractions industry to talk about where guest technology, AI, and digital transformation are heading next. So grab the details at gatemaster.info/GT Summit 26. And if you love conversations like we have happening today, you're going to want to be in that room. So let's talk about today's guests. Now, today's guests, we've got two people joining us today who are helping shape the future of attraction technology. Takashi Nakaguchi is the co-founder and CEO of Nutmeg, a company pioneering cutting-edge software solutions for attractions with over a decade of experience in AI, digital mapping, and marketing automation. Takashi's passion lies in enhancing the guest journey and redefining travel through innovation and service. And one fun fact, he can't live without Japanese comic and anime culture, which I absolutely love. I'm hoping we can talk a little bit about some of that on the show today because I also have some faves. And joining him is Antonio Giordano, who leads business development at Nutmeg. Antonio spent the last year meeting attractions and museum leaders across North America, from Universal's Epic Universe to the Exploratorium, learning what's working behind the scenes. And before that, he was a teacher in Canada, and that background is surprisingly comes in handy for his current role. And he admits his productivity and is directly correlated to the quality of his espresso machine. I'm excited to hear what kind of espresso machine Antonio's got. So before or without any further ado, let's welcome Takashi and Antonio. Welcome you both to the Live with Sondra show. I'm thrilled to have you here. There we go. I don't think I've ever had three people on the screen before. This is going to be a new experience. So
Hello.
just so the audience knows, Takashi is a little under the weather, so he brought Antonio with him today to help facilitate this conversation that we're going to have. And thank you for being here today, both of you. I'm thrilled to have you on the show. But before we get started, Takashi, this probably is going to be I'm afraid to ask this question because I'm a big fan of Attack on Titan, and I don't know if that's one that you like. Is that one of the animes that
Attack Titan? Yeah, I
that
really love that.
you
Yeah,
love
of
that one?
course. Yeah.
And then my daughter, who's one of our producers on the show, Leona, I think you may have met her before. I think Antonio has. She's a big fan of JoJo. What's
Oh,
JoJo's
Dozo.
Big
Yeah.
Adventure?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I've watched several of those. I know there's like 10, 12 years worth of of stuff, but I just want you to know I share that anime culture, and I've really been enjoying it, especially the movie, the Attack on Titan movie that came out. We recently saw that. And Antonio, espresso machine. So what kind of
Yes.
espresso machine you got?
Can you imagine if I said Keurig?
Yeah.
I'm sticking with that answer. I used to have like a very simple one shot. I believe it was even a Cuisinart. It was like my Old Faithful. It was just one a day. I loved it. Um, we'll see. Maybe one day I'll go all out and buy one of those huge ones.
I have a Lior, which I have a regular coffee pot that I make because we have a big family with kids. But I ended up breaking down and buying the Lior. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. I love it.
No?
It makes the most perfect. It's in the I think it's the Nespresso line,
Okay.
but you only buy Italian coffee. Speaking of, I know we were talking earlier that I just got back from Italy, and I was thoroughly enjoying coffee in Italy.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's out of this world. So I'm very excited to talk to you both today. And it sounds like there's a lot of creativity and caffeine in this group, which is awesome for this conversation. And today's session is about the invisible guide, the role of AI's role in seamless visits. And I love this title because it perfectly describes where attractions are heading and where the best technology fades into the background, quietly guiding every guest and their experiences. And this is actually a conversation that I've had a few times on this show with regards to the technology should not like the technology shouldn't be something that aggravates our guests. It should be something that is seamlessly in the background, assisting them with their journey or their experience, or whatever that looks like. So I'm super excited to talk to you both about that. So, do you mind if I dive right into AI and the guest experience? All right, let's do
Good.
it. Well, so one of the questions I have is, and maybe it's because it's something that's most commonly challenging to attractions, is trying to implement AI. And, what's the best advice? We're just jumping in here to help attractions get past that hurdle or maybe their own beliefs around how AI is going to affect the experience.
I'm reminded of a panel that Takashi and I both attended in San Francisco at ASTC a few weeks ago, in which they gave an excellent presentation on an exhibit that they at the Exploratorium that they put a lot of effort into. It was essentially an exhibit designed to get the public thinking about AI. And in preparation for that, they had to do a lot of research and investment themselves into the different tools out there. And what I found the most inspiring was leaning into curiosity and trying to have an open mind. A lot of these tools, these LLMs, these language models are accessible from your phone. And the two of the most popular are, many of your viewers might already know this, but Claude by Anthropic and ChatGPT by OpenAI. And you can download both of them on your phone and have conversations with them and see where it takes you. Many of the AI applications that we see on the market today are what's called a wrapper of those. So they're largely based on that technology. And so you can have those in your pocket.
So, and just for clarification, because you've kind of got me thinking about it. So when we are talking like the AI that they can implement in the park with regards to the guest experience, it's not outside of the scope of something that maybe many of our visitors are already using today in their personal lives or what's already on their phone.
For the most part, at Nutmeg, what we've done is we've used that technology for the purpose of exhibit enhancement or attraction enhancement. And so, for example, if you can think of a guest walking into a museum, they come across an exhibit. Right now, like really the go-to is physical signage or some variation of that. I'm a huge history buff. I love history, but the information is very inaccessible. So you might have a little sign there, or if you're lucky, there's kind of a clunky tour, an audio tour that you can listen to. I think some of the industry leaders have those. But besides those two, there's really not much you have access to. And it's so frustrating because you're standing in front of this artifact that could be hundreds or thousands of years old that has a rich story. And so what we do at Nutmeg is our app will actually tap into the museum's catalogs and all of its curation and give you the ability to have a conversation about this artifact.
I love that. I was actually just at the Galileo Museum in Florence, and they have his finger, his one finger. I guess there's like a few body parts that have been mummified that are still there. But to your point, they just had that audio guide, and then you could scan, but it had very little information on the history, why it was there. I mean, if I hadn't had another person standing there telling me, who obviously knows more about history than we did, she explained about all the other body parts and how they're scattered all over, and some of them have been stolen, but they had the one finger, which was really cool, to see. But I can certainly understand, to your point, where you don't have access to all that information, it changes the experience. I honestly, had that woman not been there, I probably would have missed it.
Yeah,
right?
that's super frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Super frustrating. What you're laying out is like a big gap, which is the difference between the experience without the guide and with the guide. And make no mistake, nothing tops like a really good zookeeper or a curator or a docent.
Sure.
They can't be replaced. At least that's my opinion. I don't think AI will ever replace that experience, but I think we can get pretty close to enhancing it or supplementing it.
Well, what I think is really cool is, with a guide, you can ask questions, right? With a human guide, and the AI does deliver that. You could ask questions. I could have said, "Hey, tell me more about this finger," right? Like,
oh man,
right?
Take that out of context.
But you know what I mean? Like, I totally see the advantage of being able to have that conversation with the AI, just as you can a guide, because because it has access to information.
Mm-hmm.
And so 100%, the audio guide itself, you cannot ask questions, and so it limits the experience to some degree. So I really love the work that you guys have been doing with the digital maps, and I'm curious how AI powered mapping can go beyond just navigation, but truly elevate the experience. And maybe if there's some other examples, and maybe you shared a really great example there, but what are some of the other ways that you see this being implemented in the guest experience?
Yeah, something that we're pioneering right now is a custom narrative path throughout a park, whether it be an amusement park, but more likely a museum or the different habitats in a zoo. Oftentimes zoos have the different parts of the park, which are in many cases quite large, thematically organized. So there's different regions of the world that you can explore. Maybe you have a limited amount of time. Maybe you only have a few hours in between, the soccer game in the morning and whatever you have going on at night to explore the zoo. And so through that conversation with Nutmeg and our chat, we'll be able to customize a path for you of the top places that we think are going to be the best suited for you. And maybe that also includes, a pit stop to pick up some food.
Yeah, no, I like it. I also kind of to your point, in Denver here, I think we have like one of the oldest hyenas in captivity living in Denver of all places. I mean, it's a really cold place. So, and she's all by herself. And if you didn't have somebody who is a volunteer at the zoo or somebody who could tell you her story, you wouldn't know. You would just see a hyena hanging out by herself because she's so old. She can't really be with anybody else, I guess. It's the story that I've been told. And so I think it's really interesting because you can really personalize the experience in that way, not only for the guest that's showing up, but also for those bits of information that isn't accessible on the plaque that you're reading or in the guide because nobody's going to tell you her story,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I really can see and appreciate what you guys are doing with regards to that. Let's talk a little bit about marketing, if that's okay. With regards to marketing and data and marketing automation, I know that that's something that you can help attractions with. And just curious what maybe one quick win an attraction could implement today with marketing automation that could improve communication with guests.
Something we're really excited about that it's a core feature of Nutmeg is the possibility of geo-fenced marketing. So up until now, through our conversations with museum leaders, and other attraction leaders, the problem is that most of the marketing is either done through just like the information for the exhibits through physical signage, or it's done once the guest or the family have left the premises of the park when they're thinking about a million other things. Like they've checked out. They're no longer thinking about. So you've missed that window of opportunity.
Yeah.
So with something like Nutmeg, which is a web app that you'll be using already to navigate the grounds, when a guest approaches a place where we know excitement's going to be really high, we can surface to them something like a cross-sell or an upsell or a membership proposal. Common sites might be a really popular showcase or flagship exhibit, or something like the gift shop where we know the guests are starting to come towards the end of their visit, and we'd like to remind them, it would be really valuable to us if you became a member of our zoo and contributed to everything that you just saw.
Well, I love that. I love that because I actually had a conversation. So I coach a lot of business owners through sales and marketing. And one of the things that we often talk about is like selling to them when they're wowed, right? Like don't wait until they've gone home. Like you said, they have a gazillion other things to worry about. I've also said this on the show before, but I'm going to say it again. We know that a person today gets about as much information as somebody did in one day in the 15th century. So that's what you're competing with if you let your guests go home and you don't have a conversation with them about why a membership is important, or maybe even just sponsorship.
Right.
Because I'll tell you, when you're sitting there and you're listening to the story of the oldest hyena in captivity and she's all cute, you want to throw down some money for that because of the effort that they're making to make her life well and educate people on hyenas and all the conservation work that's being done at so many of these places. That's not always highlighted in the experience.
I couldn't agree more with you on that last point. One of the things that I've learned since being a part of Nutmeg is just how complex zoos are as organizations. They're much more than just attractions. They actually play a pretty prominent role in modern conservation. But a lot of people don't know that. They'll just, as I said, they'll walk through the zoo and they'll interact with some of the habitats, but there's this whole world that goes on behind the scenes. I know that a lot of zoos are beginning to focus on that transparency and try to bring guests behind the scenes, give them access through different ways of a lot of the work that goes into the support of the animals, their health, and the conservation. But it's just one of those things that's just not very accessible right now.
Well, and you were at the IAPA meetup at Toronto Zoo, right?
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah,
As I was saying that, I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because when they took us on the tour of the hospital, and incredible, and they told us stories about some of the things that are happening in the hospital, but also that they're broadcasting this information and they're pioneering new technology and how they're treating the animals, because people who just go to zoos and visit them, and I'll admit, when my kids were young, I had a zoo membership, the Hogle Zoo in Salt Lake City. We'd go all the time, but I never thought about the hospital
Mm-hmm.
and the work that's probably being done with regards to keeping them well and their health. And that is a big part of the story and the experience that people are missing, especially Toronto Zoo. I think they are kind of really quite innovative with regards to, how animals are treated. But one of the things that I did love, were you, I don't know if you were in my group, but and I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, but we were given a tour. And one of the things that he said is, if we can't show what we're doing, if we can't have transparency and show what we're doing with the animals and to the animals when they're ill or when they need treatment, then should we be doing it? And it's something that stuck with me, and I imagine many visitors would hear those things and have, those are moments that stick with our guests.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, you hear a story like that and you go, I should probably donate a little bit to this cause or this museum.
Exactly. Yeah. That you nailed it there. I think you're referring to Grant, the director of wildlife at the Toronto Zoo, Grant Furness.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
He's awesome. I actually, through conversation with Grant, I started to really understand and realize a lot of this.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, beyond revenue growth, and you've given us a few examples, like, how marketing automation can help attractions, but also, can we talk a little bit about how it can help attractions build community and guest loyalty over time?
Yeah, sure. I think that, a lot of the things that we've already discussed, helping the guests feel like they're part of a community or like an active ecosystem rather than just an attraction, goes a long way when it comes to community, feeling a part of something. I think a lot of the things that we've already discussed so far go a long way.
So having the guest being a part of the conversation around what's happening with the attraction, having more access to more information, builds community, or maybe just.
I think, like the previous example, let's say I'll compare and contrast two situations. So without a deeper understanding of the conservation that's going on, a guest will walk through, might interact with some of the habitats, might read some of the signage. Maybe even if they're lucky, they'll see the feeding. But the zoo exists as something that's outside of themselves. It's a place that we go to, to entertain the kids, or maybe, to visit an animal that we think is pretty cool that we saw. But that's pretty much it. Whereas if you are, you're having a conversation with a chatter, or if you're really lucky, a zookeeper, and you come to understand the active part that this zoo plays in the conservation ecosystem, that you contribute to, that you're a part of, and that you can support that. We've gone from a static experience that is outside of the person's lived life to something that they can feel like they're a part of, that they can contribute to, that can be a community.
Yeah, and I think a lot of spend today that patrons make is, we know that people are more likely to spend if they feel like that is going to a good cause. Or to elevate communities and to make change in the world that so many people want to see. And so I do 100% agree with that. Now, with regards to technology, kind of just switching gears real quick, with regards to technology, what are some, I know that there's, okay. So what's one maybe AI related innovation that has you guys the most excited right now? Maybe something that you think will make a huge impact on attractions, how attractions operate, but maybe also on how they connect with guests. And you've given us a couple of examples, but I'm curious from your standpoint, what do you think really is exciting that's happening right now?
Something that we're exploring right now is this might seem a little basic or like table stakes, but is just like instant translation in the communication. So on some of our border states or places where there's a lot of tourism, where organizations have to have multiple different paper maps or multiple different audio tours. Imagine one version of whatever the tour or the interaction is that can immediately translate, detecting what the language spoken by the guest is. That's something that we're applying right now that we're really excited about. But there's so much. There's so many. Given the nature of these LLMs, there's so many things that can be implemented. I think it's a really exciting time, and I think that that over the next 5 to 10 years, a lot more will happen. We're super new to this in the attractions industry.
Yeah, no, I agree. We had a feature that we launched during the pandemic for a museum that had a translation issue, and because they had so many visitors coming in, because it was one of the Caribbean islands in the Caribbean, so it's so many. And granted, we were just on the ticketing side, so we had to just record the name. But I was really thought that it was such a cool experience for the guests that once they bought their ticket and assigned their language, when they showed up, it automatically applied that to them. So from the second they scanned their ticket, and I'm not sure if it was your system or whose system it was that they were working with that created that guide, but I just thought that that was such a nice value add, first of all, because many guests don't want to have to stand there. I mean, I was just in Italy where it's not my language, so it's very hard to. What's that?
He's just rubbing it in at this point. Each time you say it, it's more and more painful.
Listen, I'm so ready to go back to Italy. I really did love it. But I will say this, like navigating the train system, because we didn't speak the language, I picked up a lot of words, right? Over it's funny how when you get immersed in someone else's language, you'll pick stuff up. But I just, when you look at even just the train experience, trying to buy a ticket to where you're going when you don't speak the language can be very difficult. So you imagine in our attractions, if a guest is showing up and they can't navigate that can be frustrating for them. And it definitely has an impact on the experience that they're having. So I love that you guys are doing this and making this accessible. Because in the case of the museum we worked with, it was 100% a custom project that's not being offered elsewhere. But it made a difference for those guests. And I think what you guys are doing is making this AI related technology available to all attractions, which is really cool to see, because I don't have to go through a crazy expensive integration to get it done. They just need to contact you.
Yeah, I think we're touching on something that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet in the conversation, and that's the guest services / visitor services side of things.
Yeah.
Just simple questions, which are very important to patrons. But things like, where are the bathrooms? How do I get here? Where's this restaurant? When does it close, etc. And yeah, that can be very intimidating to someone that doesn't speak the language. Just guests and visitors in general. And again, that's a lot of the time information that just isn't readily available because we're relying on physical signage in a huge park.
Or an FAQ on your website, which is totally outdated. I do a lot of work with accessibility and people with disabilities in attractions. And one of the things that I always find interesting is how, if you are somebody who needs to know where an accessible bathroom is, you have to go through an entire FAQ before you can find it, if you can even find where it is, right? And so just to make that question, something just to make it so that somebody can easily type in or ask a question and have that information available to them, is a game changer.
Yeah.
So forget the language. I mean, there are just people who speak your language who are still in need of this assistance.
Right. And with something like Nutmeg, you don't even necessarily need to type it out. You can even just talk into your phone.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that's a lot of our parks come to us, ask us about accessibility, especially on their website with their technology. To me, having the ability to talk and to talk to it, having the ability to type or whatever means that you are going to input that data, but just being able to have something that can get you the information. Because for us, we've done quite a lot of looking quite a lot at, like, what do people need if they have a person in their family that might have special needs or have accessibility needs. And the one thing that they always come back and say is information. They need information. They don't necessarily need you to change or make accommodations. They just need to know, where can I find what I need?
Right.
And have that easily available to them. And that's not necessarily something that every person is looking for. So to be able to have a guide that allows you to have access to that, I think is really, really great. Pretty cool that you guys are doing that. And so with all this incredible tech that we have, how do attractions that are either working with you or that should be working with you make sure they don't lose the human touch? That hard. I mean, we talked a little bit about, having a human guide or a curator at a museum. You can't replace that. But how do we do this with the AI to make that keep the heart and the warmth that makes this industry so special?
Yeah, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier in the conversation. We can never replace a zookeeper, a curator, a docent, someone that lives, someone whose passion it is to be a zookeeper, or to who's fascinated about a certain part of, just really likes the French Revolution, for example, and the excitement that and the little details and the color that they use when they're explaining this to you, the way that their eyes light up. When AI will never replace that.
Yeah.
Nutmeg is an enhancement. It's supplementary, or maybe that person's sick, and you still like them to have, you still would like to enhance their guest experience. That's where something like Nutmeg, it's easily accessible on their phone that they can pull up and have a conversation with. It can help in those cases, but it'll never, in my opinion, at least, I don't think it can ever replace that human touch and that passion that someone who lives in that domain.
Yeah, I agree. But I think it's important for us to have these enhancements, right? Because also, like, having a guide isn't for everybody, and maybe even not accessible to everybody. I mean, look at Disney's VIP experience. That's not accessible to everybody, right? But with AI technology, we might be able to bring some of that to everyone, right? Because it's now accessible. I mean, listen, everybody's a member to Club 33 or has the resources for that, right? So when we think about this, but we could still give people that same information, the same experience with this in a way. And I really, you guys have kind of opened my eyes to that today. So we're going to wrap up the show today. And I think it's really a fascinating discussion when we talk about AI and how it is enhancing the experience, not necessarily replacing things, like you said, the guides and the human touch that we have in so many of our attractions, but more just kind of helping us in so many ways be more accessible, help these attractions run smoother, maybe even smarter. And in many ways, you could probably even have a little bit more of a personal touch, would you say? Because I'm sure the AI knows a certain amount of or has access to some of the info that on that guest.
Exactly. Yeah, and can make comments based on that and suggestions. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's a way more personal experience and somebody giving, guiding you through an attraction that doesn't know you.
Potentially, yeah, potentially that could be a place or an area in which using something like Nutmeg or an AI chat can go a little bit further than has access to information that you provide it that can customize or tailor a personalized response based on you.
Hey, look, have you driven in a Waymo? Aren't you a
Yes,
yeah. You've been in one.
I am. I'm surrounded by them.
Yes, you're surrounded by them. But you know why I love them? I love that when I get in, it's playing my music.
Yeah.
Like that is such a simple touch, like personal touch, that means so much. Like if I have the option, a Waymo or
use the Spotify,
an Uber, yeah. I choose the Waymo, and I choose it because it knows my music and it's like ready to go as soon as I get in. So I can understand how you guys are using AI to really personalize experiences for guests, but also, it's just we need to be leveraging technology in this industry more.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I'm really excited to see what I can learn at IAPA next week in Orlando, the IAPA Expo, to see what's up and coming and what some of the trends are. But as I said earlier, I think like we're not even at zero right now when it comes to the implementation of this technology in attractions. So I'm really excited to see other projects like this emerge.
Well, and I think we have the possibilities, as you said, are pretty endless.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some amazing guests on this show, like yourselves, talking about these different types of technologies that are helping attractions run smoother, be better at what they do, create more personalized experience, which I think the personalization is something that, and I've been in this industry since the late 90s, that is something that we've never really had until recent years. And it is such a cool part of the industry right now because we really are in an industry where those things matter to people. Their loyalty comes from that. And they want, we mentioned, accessibility. They want access to information and they need it to be easy. And so these tools that we have today, as far as technology goes, are really helping us get to where we can create an even more personalized and meaningful, memorable experience for people. Everybody, I say all the time, and I just go back to accessibility because it's just kind of a passion of mine. But when I tell people I work in this industry, most people go, I love it. It's my favorite thing. I am like, I'm spending all my money to go to Disney every year. I get everybody's best stories with their families and the relationships and the relationships that they've built with these parks. And then you have people who maybe have a family member with an accessibility need and they don't have that story. They have a story of challenges and the things that I know that technology are going to help us overcome. And technology like this.
Yeah. That makes me think of Morgan's Wonderland. That was actually the first IAPA meetup that I was able to attend. That was mind-blowing. The extent to which the park has gone in what they call it ultra accessibility. Just little things that you would never think of. But yeah, I mean that's part of what we're trying to bring to a broader audience.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. So before we head out, if somebody was looking for this type of technology or they had questions or how they can enhance this experience for their guests, and they know that Nutmeg might be able to help them with the solution, how would somebody get a hold of you guys? What's the best way?
Give me a call. There's a few different ways. You can message us through our website or message either myself or Takashi, one of our team members. If you're just curious and you want to know what this tech looks like, on a very simple level. Like I said, you can, if you're curious right now and see how AI works, you're starting from absolutely nothing. Feel free to download something like Claude or something like ChatGPT. Just ask it a few questions. Give it a shot. Like ask it a question. If you're a museum expert, ask a question about an artifact at your zoo, and you'll be surprised. Or rather, an artifact at your museum, and see what it responds, or how it responds. And if you'd like to know more and you want to know how this can actually be implemented in a form at your museum or your zoo or your attraction, give us a call and we'll show you what we built.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. And it's interesting you mentioned the photo, and I'm going to bring up Italy one more time because you said you saw that we were with Frank Shamrock, and Frank was he was selling off some of his shorts that he had done fights in. So for the audience, I was just in Italy on a wrestling tour, and he was giving away like shorts that he'd won titles in. He wasn't giving them away. He was selling them, and he would sign them, and people could put them in their gym. But there was one pair of shorts we could not figure out what fight it was. And just to your point about scanning it, we scanned the shorts, and the AI said it was this fight in 2002, and then we were able to track down photos of it, and it was fascinating to me. I'd never used AI that way, but I think, Antonio, that is a great suggestion that you just made, so people can see what that experience is like, because to have that kind of information at our fingertips, and we also probably wouldn't have sold the shorts had we not been able to say which fight it came from, and he's been in so many he didn't remember. So it was really it was just to your point, it was just an interesting experience to scan something with the AI and to be given all that history. It was just an incredible time we live in. So
it is. I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah. Well, huge thank you to both of you for being here. Takashi, are you hanging in there okay? I know you're not feeling
Yes, unfortunately, I wasn't able to speak today. However, Antonio spoke like my AI. Thanks, Antonio.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you both for being here, for your time, for the information that you shared, and for what you're doing to help this industry and attractions do what they do best, right? Create those memories and those experiences for their guests, but also leveraging these tools to personalize it, to make it better for the guests. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I do hope to see you next week at IAAPA.
Bring your sunscreen.
I will. I'll see you guys on the other side.
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right. Well, wasn't that a fun conversation on AI? They got me thinking about some things for sure that I hadn't thought about before, especially with regards to the zoos and museums. And I could see the real practical application for a tool like this and how we can make experiences better for guests when we have these tools available to us. And these kind of conversations are always so exciting to me because I've been in this industry a long time. I think 1999. I'm not doing the math in my head right now, but it's been a long time. And to see where we've come and where we're going in what probably is a short amount of time in the big scheme of things, even though it's been many years for me, is so incredible. And it's so incredible. And like they mentioned, like, I don't even think we're scratching the surface of where we're going to be going. But what that means for you attractions is that you've got to get yourselves educated on the technology that is available to you, because it is moving so fast. And the expectations of our guests are also moving very fast with those changes. So big thank you again to Takashi and Antonio for being here today. Before we wrap up, I just want to have another huge thank you to Gatemaster, our sponsor for today's episode, and for bringing our industry together at the GT Summit in 2026. And if you are serious about the future of guest technology, AI innovation, visit gatemaster.info/GT Summit 26 and join the movement of attractions who are implementing these technologies that are enhancing the guest experience. I want to thank you all for tuning into the Live with Sondra show, because most of all, I cannot do this show without all of you who are watching and who are commenting on our live show, and those of you listening on all of the podcast networks. Thank you. This show would certainly not be possible without all of you and your support. So until next time, I hope you keep innovating, keep connecting, and keep building the kind of experiences that guests remember for a lifetime.